Hi everyone and welcome back to UCBTV. I'm Amy Rowles and today we welcome back Corinne Barclay from CMA to give us an update to the ACT's March COVID-19 shopper research with some comparative data from the latest CMA research just completed at the end of May. Let's have a quick look at an overview of the methodology and sample size, and welcome back Corinne.
Thanks, Amy. It's a pleasure to be with you here today to share with you the latest results of the ACT's COVID impact study. As you know, we did this study at the end of March, at that initial period when lockdown had first taken place. And what we did was we assessed the role of convenience stores for shoppers at that time. We were back in field at the end of May, and at that point in time, restrictions had just started to ease. So not quite entirely across the country, but certainly in some states more than others. So in New South Wales, in Queensland and in WA, and not so much in Victoria. But this particular study measures the role of convenience and how that has changed compared to the period in March.
What is the biggest difference between the March and May surveys?
The biggest changes we saw between the two studies was really around people's behaviour in terms of where they were going and what they were doing. So we actually saw an increased rate of people telling us that they were going out less than usual. They were just not going out as much. And that actually increased from 69% to 74%. So 3/4 of people were telling us that although restrictions had started to ease, they really weren't going out as much as before. And of course, what that impact had was a natural flow-on effect in that if they didn't need to go out as much, they didn't need their cars as much, and of course didn't need fuel. And therefore that caused a reduction in the visit frequency to convenience. We also saw a change in supermarket shopper behaviours. They told us that they started to visit supermarkets less during that period. And of course, the panic period was over and there was not that need to top up. But they also told us that they were less likely to be going to convenience stores. So in March, we talked about the fact that 47% of them said that they would go to convenience stores for items, that they needed outside of going to a supermarket. That dropped to 26% in this last read. So quite a significant shift and quite a significant decline in terms of those supermarket shoppers coming to us. The other big change we saw is that increase in online ordering, and we saw that increase almost 30%. And whilst that's not unusual because online has been trending for a while, certainly that increase in such a short period is quite significant. We saw that go up through that period, and in context it makes perfect sense. People are going out and about less, they're less likely to drive places, they're at home more, and therefore more likely to order products to their home.
Is there any change in the type of product shoppers are purchasing?
There was certainly a lessening in some of the products that people were buying and a softening in some categories. So for example, when we look at things like paper products or even general groceries, cleaning products, for example, they definitely softened over that time. And again, that makes sense. Certainly the panic period was over. There was not the restrictions in terms of what we could get through supermarkets. So there was not that same need for those products. There was still an increased rate of people buying them at convenience versus previously, but certainly they lessened. What we did see though is products like snacks, milk, bread, we saw those definitely increase. Some of those household staples like milk and bread, but also those impulsive categories like snacking increase. And what was really interesting was we saw the increase or the likelihood of buying those categories being more so from supermarket shoppers than it was from our regular convenience shoppers. The other two categories that really stood out was with hot coffee and tobacco or cigarettes. Hot coffee is an interesting one because certainly we saw that increase over time, particularly at a time where a lot of cafes still weren't fully open. And that one will be interesting to see how that changes over time as they do continue to open. With tobacco though, we saw it become very much a destination and saw this in other research as well. Definitely we saw for shoppers who were smokers specifically, up to 30% of them, whether they were from supermarkets normally or convenience, actually coming to convenience to buy their tobacco needs.
Are shoppers more likely to use us for top-up shopping?
Well, the interesting thing with top-up shopping is when we ask our regular convenience shoppers, in fact, their position hasn't changed at all. We found with our regular shoppers that they used us the exact same way. So what we found is although there was an increase in some of the categories they bought into, it wasn't because they were doing top-up shopping. They were still coming to us for the regular missions they would come to us for. Supermarket shoppers, on the other hand, tells a very different story, and we definitely saw some changes there. So whilst most of them would still choose supermarkets to do their initial top-up shop, and we class top-up shop as 1 to 3 items, we definitely saw a lessening of those choosing supermarket as their first place. We saw a little bit of movement into small supermarkets, but we actually saw an increase to petrol and convenience as well. Now, it was only small, it was a 2% move, so certainly not significant, but the story it tells is an interesting one in terms of the unfolding that supermarket shoppers, although there was less likely a number of them to come to us as previously, for those who have come to us and who've realised that they can get the products they need, conveniently and easily, they continue to come to us and actually see us more as an option for top-up shopping.
In terms of convenience stores, are there any key attributes we are doing well?
Yeah, definitely. What's really interesting is the levels of trust that shoppers have in convenience, particularly when it comes to COVID. There's a very high level of trust in terms of the practices that we have in stores and the measures that are put in place. And we actually saw that increase from March to May of 7 points in terms of being the main reason why people chose convenience. In terms of rating how comfortable people felt, we found that overall, compared to any other channel, they felt safer in convenience than any other channel that we measured, even more so than a large supermarket. So we found 51% of people said to us, yes, I totally agree, I'm totally comfortable with coming into a convenience store. And what's really interesting about this is those that rated us even higher and were more likely to agree were actually the supermarket shoppers who rated us above our regular everyday convenience shoppers.
What are the key takeouts of the research?
The key things really are 3 things that I suppose I want to leave with you. One is around the foot traffic. It's evident that there's less foot traffic. We saw 3/4 of people telling us they were still more likely to be at home and not going out and about, and therefore not needing us for things like fuel. But certainly what that presents is an opportunity for convenience, because as people are more likely to be at home, localisation becomes all the more important. The role we can play as a local shop or the local store for convenience for our regular local shoppers is an important one. The other thing was certainly that increase in online ordering, and I think you can think of that as either an opportunity or an issue for convenience. There's still a lot of unknowns around online ordering, but it's a trend that, as I said, has continued over time, has increased quite significantly over the last couple of months, but very likely will continue to grow. So there's some more information we need to find out about what that opportunity is and how we can tap into that also. The other thing is that return to convenience. The convenience shoppers, the regulars who have come back to us and are doing as they did before. And that's great. We're starting to see them come back. We're seeing some of the foot traffic numbers come back. Maybe not the same regularity, but certainly more people coming back. And they're doing the same behaviours as before though. So they're going back into what they were buying before and the missions they were coming to us before. Our supermarket shoppers though, for those we were able to retain, are using us a little bit different. They are more likely to buy into those household items, into everyday items like bread and milk. They still tap into things like beverages and snacks and tobacco. So there's a real opportunity for our supermarket shoppers that are coming to us in terms of how we represent value to them and to make sure they keep coming back. And I think the last thing I want to leave you with is the trust that shoppers have with convenience. As I said, the trust levels are quite high and higher, and they feel more comfortable in convenience than they do in any of the other markets or retailers that we measured. So that's a key thing and a key positive for us as a channel that we need to use and we need to leverage. And we do that by being really clear as much as possible in our stores of what the practices are, what the steps are, what the measures are we are taking, so that our shoppers feel comfortable to return to us.
Thank you for your time, Corinne. I'm Amy Rowles, and thank you for watching UCB TV.